Welcome to GGtv Reads Books, where we dive into the stories that shape our world. This episode, we're peeling back the layers of Arthur Miller's The Crucible, a gripping tale of fear, power, and morality in the face of mass hysteria. Stay tuned as we explore the trials, both literal and metaphorical, that define this classic.
Welcome back, bookworms. A small change of pace today as we are joined by Ms. Faulhaber for a group discussion of Arthur Miller's The Crucible, a play in 4 acts.
Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So, what about The Crucible do you think can be applied to modern society?
I think there's so much that still applies to society today, but most importantly, the weaponization of fear and the ostracizing of people who are different than, the main population, those outsiders who get blamed for everything just because maybe they look a little different, they act a little different.
I think my personal thing that I think can still be applied is like some of the religious themes and how we see, I think it's at least 2 religious figures in power are like just blissfully ignoring or using their status to get what they want.
Right. Definitely pushing their agenda, whether they think it's for the good of the people or not.
Yeah.
They know, especially in 1692, that they have all the power and that religion is something, at least in this society, that everyone's going to follow. So if you are, when you know that everyone is, seriously adhered to their religion, and you are the person in charge of relaying that religion, it's very easy to manipulate that and to, put in messages that maybe aren't actually connected to the Bible or God's purpose overall.
Yeah.
I talk a lot. It's my job.
That's all right.
So, Olivia, you wrote the script. Do you want to seg into the next thing?
Sure. So I know that the reason that Arthur Miller wrote this was because of the Red Scare or McCarthyism or the communist, whatever you want to call it.
The Red
All
Scare,
those things.
McCarthyism.
Wow. Yes.
Yes.
Technically, the second Red Scare and McCarthyism, they're kind of interchangeable, yeah.
Yeah. Because I know he was accused of being a communist,
Yeah.
wasn't he?
He
Wouldn't
was.
give names.
Yeah, and it was actually later, a few years later, but after he wrote the book. But this was going on before he wrote the play.
Yeah.
So he knew it was coming. And, he had to pick a time in society. Nope, he had to pick a time in history that mirrored what was going on, accusing people just by hearsay, not having substantial evidence, using fear to get people to turn on each other. And he was already really interested in the Salem witch trials, so it just kind of fit for him.
Well, Salem Witch Trials is definitely very interesting.
Yeah. Do you think, had the Red Scare not happened, he still would have written the book?
Wow,
Or how it would be different?
that's a good question. I don't know. Maybe. I mean, he definitely studied it a lot in college and was very aware of a lot of the themes, and he knew that things were, the Red Scare is not the only time, right, that we've
Yeah.
made an oopsie in history where we judged people for the wrong reasons and blamed them for things out of their control. So I think it really motivated him, the McCarthyism, and I think that's a good question. I wonder if he would have ever put all the effort into it if he didn't live through it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then how do you think him writing this book about kind of the Red Scare, led to him getting arrested? Do you think they were kind of, linked in a way?
You would think. I don't know. I don't know how aware that the House Un-American Activities Committee really was, as far as knowing that he wrote this book and reading the book and seeing the connection. I know that as an author and an outspoken, advocate for free speech and, freedom of I was doing so well. What is it called? Not freedom of association? Is that it?
I think so.
Yeah. So free speech, freedom of association. He really.
Made him a target, kind of.
Oh, there you go. Thank you. Yes, definitely. He was already on their radar, and now you're writing a play that people are performing. It's not just a book, right? That the one time some people read. Like, people are performing it, and they're making connections between what they see on the stage, even though it's a different time in history and what's going on. So I really do feel like, it put a target on his back, like you said.
I know the witch hunts specifically were chosen because of their link to the Red Scare, which I think is very interesting because it's like one of the few moments, well, several moments in history that he could have picked. But I also think it's very interesting that he picked that one specifically and made so noticeable of changes. Proctor. What was that?
Proctor and Abigail, hello.
What was that? Must have been the wind.
Yeah, I get it, especially if he's writing a play where you want multiple audiences to come and see it, that you kind of Hollywood it up, right? You add some romance and some drama and just, it could have happened. It didn't happen. I hope not, considering.
Yeah, for our listeners, Proctor was in his 60s and Abigail was 11 in real life.
Didn't know that.
Yeah.
So we're hoping that was his creative take on it.
Yeah.
So I get it, because you want to draw the audience in with more than just shouting about the atrocities that are going on. I like the book overall for those editions. I think it's rough for students to kind of wrap their head around, because as soon as they hear that Abigail was really 11, they're like, I'm like, no, it didn't actually happen.
No, it's not.
This is a book. This is history. This is a book.
Yeah.
Right. So.
All right. So is that all the topics we wanted to cover before the plot?
Yes.
All right. So the story, much like this podcast, starts with a group of girls in the Crucible.
This group of girls, they go out in the woods, they're dancing, which was not good for Puritans. They did not like dancing. Dancing was a no-go.
Should we give a background on what Puritan means?
Oh, yeah, that was probably a good
So
idea.
Puritanism was extreme Christianity. I don't know the word. I should have brought my notepad.
It was, really strict, and, they didn't, allow dancing, or I think singing was allowed.
Singing, but only if they were
Religious.
psalms or religious songs. So and reading only if it was a religious text. So
They all, looked the same-ish, because they all had very similar things to wear.
Vanity was a sin.
Yeah, it
No
was
vanity.
very not good
This is not
to
my
stand
house.
out. You had to be like everybody else.
right, and especially, how could the Puritan men do any of their work if the Puritan women would let go of their bonnets and
Their shoulders.
their shoulders, their hair, their ankles? It'll be chaos. You can't.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like spring break down there. So, yeah, it's very strict
Yes.
religious. You're right. Very not a lot of rules and not a lot of leeway as far as breaking those rules.
Yeah. But so they go into the woods, they dance, and Reverend Paris ends up finding the girls. I think one of them was naked, wasn't she?
Yes.
She was.
And then Reverend Paris is in charge, and he's one of the girls' dad.
Yeah. Betty. And she, the two youngest girls, the next morning are sick. They won't
can't wake up.
move. One of them has their eyes open, the other one's eyes are just closed, and they will not move, won't do anything.
Yeah, they can sneeze and
Well, they
cough
can
and
sneeze.
follow the conversation that's going on around them. Weird how that
Right.
works. Mm-hmm.
But so everyone gets worried, and they call in a witch expert.
How is that not my job? That's what I want to know.
And he very quickly is like, oh, this is witchcraft. So then the girls start to accuse people.
That they don't like.
Yeah. Like
Only it was that easy.
Right. Or not. I don't think I'd be here, so let's.
and so then the witch trials start, and there is Lindsay. Do you want to talk about Abigail and Proctor? I know that's
Okay.
your favorite.
It is my favorite part of the book. I think it's really fun. But so there's this man named John Proctor, and he's in the town. He's really respected, but he lives on the outskirts in a farm. So he's kind of disconnected. He doesn't know what's going on, really. And then there's Abigail, who's Reverend Parris's niece, and she's an orphan. And so she used to work for the Proctors, but she got fired. And no one knows why she got fired, but there's a rumor, kind of, or it's implied that Abigail and Proctor had relations. I don't know how to say it.
Well, they had the sex.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. They were getting busy. And
Okay. Oh, wow. Okay. That's a little bit different than what I said, but yeah, still accurate. Still accurate.
So after Proctor's wife found out, but she confronted him. She didn't know, and it was only one time. Fired Abigail. Abigail's living back with her uncle, and Proctor and Elizabeth are like, they aren't getting along. She's kind of distant toward him. He's mad that she won't just forgive him and get over it. It's a whole thing. Their marriage kind of sucks right now. They're in a rough patch. But so Abigail's like obsessed with Proctor after they do the things.
Wow.
Pick this book. So she's obsessed with him, and when he comes to town to see about the witchcraft, she's like, I know you were looking in my window and you want me and all this, and Proctor's like, this anyways looking at me. But
He said that?
But Proctor's like, I don't want you. It happened one time and all of this. So while they're all accusing people, Abigail throws out Proctor's wife's name, Elizabeth, and says that she's a witch, and when she worked for them, she was a witch, all this stuff. Mm-hmm. And
it does get dismissed, but then Mary Warren and her stupid poppet came in and ruined everything.
Do we not talk about Mary Warren? I'm sick of talking about Mary Warren.
Wow.
Mary Warren, she's the new, servant girl, I guess, the Proctors have, and she's one of the afflicted girls.
But not really.
Yeah.
She's a goody two-shoes.
My personal favorite way of describing her is saying that she has the personality of a sponge.
Accurate. Nice. Yeah. That's well done. That's well said.
In my essay. Thank you.
It was. So she's part of the reason that Elizabeth gets accused because she was sewing a poppet and she stuck the needle into the poppet's stomach for safekeeping. Abigail saw it and stuck a needle in her own stomach and was like, oh, it was Elizabeth.
Yeah, that she was sending her spirit out to get rid of Abigail.
Yeah. So then Proctor goes and he tries to get his wife and a couple of his friends' wives out of prison because he's like, they're innocent.
There's a whole court seat.
Yeah. All of their attempts fail. And then there's a scene where he admits it and Elizabeth kind of damns him a little bit because she lies about it because she didn't think he admitted it yet, which is so sad.
She thought she was protecting him, to be fair, but yeah, she does lie. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so then Mary tries to give her deposition because she's like, oh, I never saw anything. It wasn't real. Because Proctor basically, I think he told her he was going to beat her or something if he didn't go with him to the courtroom.
Yeah, there's a little bit of that, yeah. But also she genuinely doesn't think that Elizabeth is a witch.
Yeah.
She got wrapped up in all the other stuff because everyone was believing them. And she is terrified of Proctor, but she's also terrified of Abigail and Danforth, and I
think there's at least 2, maybe 3 scenes where he threatens to beat her or has beaten someone younger than him or thrown them around at the very least.
Yeah. He threatens to whip her once. And then, maybe twice. He doesn't do it, but then, he does. My favorite line is, I'll bring your guts into your mouth. That's a pretty, it's a serious line. He doesn't do it, but that's pretty serious.
Okay. So then in court, when Mary's trying to give her deposition.
There you go.
The judge tells her that she's going to hang for lying about the witchcraft, but also she could hang for lying now and going back and saying there was witchcraft, but now she's saying there isn't. So basically, they're threatening to kill her. And then she starts saying that Abigail pretends to see Mary's spirit, like a bird.
Yeah, it was like a yellow bird in the rafters or
and
something.
And says Mary's trying to kill her.
Yeah.
So Mary goes back and she's like, yes, it's witches, and Proctor wants to kill me and make me join the devil, and he's a witch.
Yeah, so then Proctor's accused, which is so much fun. At some point, Elizabeth goes and she tries to, at Hale and Paris's request, I believe, and goes and she tries to convince him to not do that. But then when they want him to sign his name and they're going to post his confession on the church doors, he goes, screw you guys, rips up the warrant and gets hanged anyway.
Because he's screwed either way.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
That's definitely
That's basically where the book ends.
Yep.
yes.
Yep, that's a good summary.
And now we have the movie, which has a few
movie.
changes I personally do not like at
I
all.
like some of the changes.
The first one I noticed was in the book when Elizabeth gets arrested. Her children aren't present; they are sleeping. In the movie, guess who tots their way downstairs, guys?
her kids.
Why was that needed? I don't understand why it's a necessary
made
addition.
It more dramatic, and it also kind of showed that now Mary was responsible for them, and Proctor actually had to
about
step
it in the
up.
book.
Yeah, that's true. It does make it more dramatic because, like, they're kind of thrown in the room. You know, like they're trying to protect their mom, and they're kind of like tossed back into the Proctor's house, unable to free her. So it is I guess it makes it more sad and emotional.
Yeah. The other one was the when they had Abigail go back to the prison cell before she escapes to talk to Proctor, because the
Yeah.
entire book sets it up as it was like an obsession, not love, and then in the movie they have her go back, which implies that it might be because she's trying to save him, and I'm like, but that's not. But
I kind of think it like solidifies that like she was only in it for herself, so she could have him. But when she finally's like, he's like, I don't care about you. It really just makes it known that she didn't care about him. She didn't really care. She just wanted him, and this whole thing was just for herself to save herself.
The movie was good though. Daniel Day-Lewis did an amazing performance in the last couple of scenes that he's
He
present.
was Proctor, right?
Yes, he was
Wow.
Proctor.
Wow. Wow. Yes, he was Proctor. Yeah. I agree. I go back and forth. You both have good points about it. Like, it does show that she knows she did the wrong thing. She knows that it's a lie. She knows she has to leave, and yet she leaves him there because he says no. So it does kind of show that she's aware of everything that she's doing is wrong. But yeah, I'm with you. She doesn't even spend the time to go and offer to try to bribe the jailer. She's just like, oh, it's getting crazy in here for me. I'm out.
Yeah. And now we move on to the fun part, blaming characters.
Oh,
Writing essays about this.
are you now?
I personally blame Hale because was Abigail dancing in the woods? Yes. Did she start all this? Yes. But who said it was witchcraft, guys? The witch expert.
Ding,
And,
ding.
He did.
Not Proctor. What's his name? Paris.
Yeah.
Well, remember, first Pear said it wasn't witchcraft.
Yeah.
Oh.
Because he didn't want to be the reverend who had a daughter and a niece and
yeah.
a slave who were out doing witchcraft. So he was hoping it wasn't. But then when he realized that, suddenly if it is witchcraft, they're all victims.
And people trying to defend Hale, like, I think, like, I mean, sure, he was kind of sweet, but at the same time, he straight up admits that he's going to be charged as John's murderer in his own mind.
Yeah.
And murdering is against, I think it's the 10 Commandments, isn't it, Lindsay?
Yep.
Yeah. So he's like, ooh, I'm going to hell if he doesn't get saved. Ooh, maybe I should fix this, guys.
And he gives an effort, I think.
He does. I mean,
doesn't
more
work.
than most of the other characters. I know he quits the court at one point,
Yeah, he walks out.
which that scene was so funny in the movie because you can just barely hear him yell, I quit this court, because all the villagers are screaming.
Yeah, and no one seems to care by that point, except for Danforth. Danforth is just like, wait a minute, and kind of goes after him because he knows it'll look bad, but nobody else cares. They're just like, what?
Yeah.
Okay, bye.
Danforth also sucks.
He does.
He does suck.
Does.
He's
It's hard for me to decide who's worse. I mean, because Hale, he does. Oh man, he just rushes in, so full of himself, and doesn't pay attention to everything around him. And yeah, that.
He also later admits that he doesn't know any of the villagers, so he doesn't know well enough to know whether it is or is not witchcraft after he decided it was witchcraft.
It's very true. It's very true.
It's very blind judgment.
Right.
He's very...
But also Danforth, he
knows
could have
everyone.
stopped it before people were actually executed.
Yeah.
He could have, and he doesn't. And by that time, Hale is trying to at least stick up for the people, but he just gets shut down.
Yeah. I think at least, like, in my personal opinion, one of the people with, like, the lowest blame possible is Elizabeth.
Right.
Yeah,
Because
don't
I
know
feel
how
like
people
the
blame
only
her.
thing she really did wrong was be cold.
Right.
I don't
and,
even think she was
like-
wrong there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm just coughing to the mic. That's good. Sorry, I have random cough. I think I very much like the way Arthur Miller writes his characters because they're very complex. They're not like all oh, they're all great or they're all flawed. So, yeah, I think it's easy to be like, well, she says she wasn't affectionate, and then he went to search for affection. But also, this is the really real world where you don't do that.
Yeah.
You know, like, do people make mistakes? Sure, but also you took an oath, and you're supposed to work
Yeah.
things out, not find the servant girl.
I feel like most of this could have worked. Like most of this wouldn't have happened in book-wise if they had just talked about it.
Yeah. Communication.
Which is not
Exactly.
something the Puritans
Yeah.
were particularly good at. Was not something the Puritans were particularly
Yes.
good at. There we go.
Yeah.
All right. So we're almost out of time. I am not talking in the mic. Is there anything fun, any fun facts about the book or anything anyone wants to share? Or about the real witch trials?
Giles Corey. He was very fun. They bring his trial up a little bit in the book. They mention how he died. He was stoned to death and his, like,
Pressed.
pressed to
It's
death.
different.
And the more weight thing. But his story is really cool because I believe in real life he was actually making fun of the trials beforehand. And he wasn't a well-liked dude at all, and neither was his
No.
wife. So when his wife got accused of witchcraft, he, like, refused to testify against her. And so then they were like, "You're a warlock." And he was like, "Shucks."
You got
guys."
Darn.
You got me.
And when he was getting pressed, he just kept saying more weight. Instead of being
Yeah.
like, "No, I confess, I confess." He was like,
Which diva move there?
right.
Right.
Fatty.
Absolutely.
Of
Absolutely.
course.
All right. Is that all of our facts about
Yes.
everything?
I think so.
All right. And then why would you recommend this book, or why is it a good book to teach? What do you like to teach? Like, why is it nice for that?
I like that it is inspired by historical events. So it gives me an opportunity to educate kids about our actual history too, because it's very relevant. So yeah, hey, this keeps happening in our history where we judge people unfairly, and the first people we start with are the people that aren't like us. You know, so this is a reoccurring theme. So I like that it's attached to that actual history. I like that it's a play because you guys get to read it out loud, and
That was so fun.
That was
right?
fun.
I definitely like that. But I think there are so many lessons about, you know, even Proctor and Elizabeth. You know, once you break someone's trust, that's really tough to get back. You know, that's a good lesson. The thing about obsession being different than love, right? Like a lot of people, younger and older, sadly, think that, you know, every fond emotion is love. And it's not. If you're willing to let someone die because of a mistake that you made while you run away, that is not
Yeah.
love, you know. So I think there's a ton of good lessons in there, both just from the play and in history, that it's good to talk about.
I like it because it's like so entertaining to like
I like
either
the
read
drama.
out loud or just like just read it in your head. I think my favorite part was Act 2. Like the first several pages are just Elizabeth and Proctor arguing. So the entire class, it's just everybody else watching me and Quinn just arguing as Elizabeth and Proctor. It was so fun.
Yep. And I mean, you gotta love a play that has a line that says "a fart on Thomas Putnam."
Yeah, that was
I
really
will
funny.
still paint that on the wall for you.
I think we should.
I think
it has to be done.
All right. Well, I think that's all the time we have. So have a great day, bookworms. Thank you for joining us today, Ms. Faulhaber. Any final thoughts?
Thank you.
No, this was awesome though. But thank you for having me. Like I think I'm gonna buy one of these headsets, just wear it around in my house, pretend like people are listening to me. It's pretty sweet.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Peace out.
Peace.
Bye.